You read speeches, but this time I thought it would be the safer thing to do, lest I break down and cry, which has been happening quite a lot the past days. And as much as I don't want to admit it, mababaw ang luha ko. I think that comes from my mother's side of the family. As I was writing this, it struck me that I was using Dad's computer, the one he uses every day to browse the web and plumb the depths of Google. Hit the like button on everyone's posts and photos on Facebook, and pester most of our relatives with his ultra-ardent Duterte posts. I am also sitting on his chair. The last time I saw him alive was here. It was last Wednesday. I was about to leave and I saw his eyes looking at me. It was the last time we locked gazes at each other. It meant nothing to me then. It was ordinary. But looking back, there was a sadness in his eyes, as if he knew that that was the last time we will see each other. Oh, the irony. Here I am a few days later, writing his eulogy at the exact place where I saw him last. Dad was as imperfect as any human being. Yet a lot of my most cherished dreams and who I am now traces its genesis through him. Let me share with you some of those precious memories. He jumped for joy when I was born. I always loved to hear that as a child whenever he would tell me the story. He named me Gideon, a name I loved and identified with through the toughest times of my life. It's a good thing too, because his other choice was Wolfgang. To name a child Wolfgang in the Philippines during the 80s would be tantamount to giving the child a death sentence on the playground. He gave me 2 books a 1-year-old baby should not be receiving. One was on rockets and spacecraft, and the other on hovercrafts. What was he thinking? Did he think a baby, barely a year old, can understand the mechanisms and technicalities of such things? And yet the pictures in those books are the earliest images I can remember. The ideas that imparted to me are still part of my pursuits in life. Believe it or not, I still want to be an astronaut. He taught me the value of honesty. He got an honesty award from the top management at UCPB, a bank where he worked as a teller during the 80s, for returning a sizable amount of money to a depositor. That award proudly hung on our wall when I was a child. Come to think of it, for all his imperfections and all our disagreements, I can say that he is the more honest person between the two of us. He spanked me hard as a kid when I did wrong, which, if you knew me as a kid, I wouldn't really be blaming you for spanking me. Yet I can still remember the tight embraces I always got from him. He was smart. Boy, was he smart. My inquisitiveness and sense of wonder came from him. Years ago, I remember finding a paper he wrote for a Rolex-sponsored competition while I was cleaning my room. It was thick and contained a ton of big words. I remember trying to read it, but I did not understand a thing. My dad's a genius, I thought. But through that intellect, he had a hard time connecting with people. He was overly protective at times, especially with Mom. I remember him being suspicious even with the guys who would sit beside my mom inside a jeepney. He was the jealous type of husband. Absurd at times, but maybe it was also a measure of how much he loved my mother. He always had a big problem with people parking in front of our house, as I'm sure our neighbors can attest to this. Pero kung gaano siya katapang or mainitin ang ulo, ganun din siya kalambing. a lot of times to the point of smothering. He always asked me if I wanted to eat, even if I just ate near him. And then he would ask me again 5 minutes later. He always lovingly prepared Hillel sandwiches to take to work. He did it with such care and stress that looking back now, it seemed that he was always preparing his masterpiece for the day. Whenever I would pick up Hillel from work at 12 midnight or 1 or 2 or 3 a.m., he would stand by the gate most of the time waiting for us to arrive. He was also annoyingly funny. He had a hearty laugh, corny jokes, and a fake British accent. I remember that as a kid. But he had a genuine smile. He loved to give funny, embarrassing, cringe-worthy baby names to his loved ones. He lovingly called my mom Momo. Kulang na lang, Momo na. I remember the reaction of my brother Hillel when he started calling him Bonain. That's the kind of name you would not want to hear your friends on the playground or your office mates to hear. Good thing your office mates are not here tonight. I guess the name stuck because now I call my brother Bones, loosely based on the nickname Dad gave him. Pero mas sophisticated sounding naman. I won't tell you the name he called me though. That one, I'll take with me to the grave. That was Dad. He was simple but complicated. He had a temper, but he was funny. A lot of times lost in the past, but always found by God. If you knew him the past 2 years or the past months, you may have noticed that he prayed a lot. Prayed aloud a lot. Sometimes a lot aloud, too much. He would pray as we drove off to somewhere, or as another car would pass by, or as we would cross an intersection, and sometimes even right in the middle of a conversation. A lot of times it would be awkward for me and a bit over the top. He would always end it by saying, in the name of Yeshua Tzevaot Shalom, blessing Israel forever. And I would just let him end the prayer just for the sake of him finishing it and not take it too seriously. Now that I'm writing this though, I did a quick search on the meaning of the Hebrew words he said. And I was taken aback by the depth of the meaning of those words. They basically mean, Jesus, the Lord of heaven's armies, bringing peace. Strong, powerful, profound. I did not know. I was too busy. For this, I'm truly sorry. If you have a loved one with you today, do not waste time in hugging them, in telling them that you love them, in telling them, I'm sorry. Life is short. Time is always running out. Do not wait for it to run out before you say what needs to be said. The last 2 years of Dad's life were the best years of his life, in my opinion. He spent it serving the Lord. He was preaching here every Saturday evening. To my surprise. Years ago, I would never have imagined that he would have a funeral honoring him as a man of God. And I am surprised at all the words I have been hearing from those he touched, especially these last 2 years. I never imagined. I never expected. I'm surprised and am in awe at how the Lord has lifted my dad out of the miry clay and fashioned him into what he is now in heaven. Forgiven, justified, glorified, perfect in God's presence. I have this memory with him when I was a small child. At night in Masbate, I was born in Masbate, he would put me on top of his shoulders while walking the streets, and he would point me to the vast multitude of stars in the sky. I would stare and wonder at the vastness of it all. Those skies are the clearest skies I can remember, and my awe and amazement and meager knowledge of the greatness of God traces its genesis from those moments on top of Dad's shoulders. I love you, Dad. Teach me how to fly when I get there. And don't pester Moses with too many questions.